Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope that you're doing good. I'm feeling introspective because I've just watched Angel's Egg. I had a bit of trouble navigating the copyright on this one, so you're gonna see this image quite a lot in this video, kind of there for a couple of seconds, so that I can break up the clips and avoid getting the video blocked. I didn't know anything about this movie when I started watching it, only that it was a highly rated classic, and so I went in expecting nothing and everything. The first part of this video is simply my opinion and thoughts after watching Angel's Egg, and then I'll do some research into the filmmaker's intentions and see how my ideas line up. Angel's Egg, or Tenchi no Tamako by Mamoru Oshii, was released in December of 1985, and it really reminded me of Vampire Hunter D. Come to find out, Vampire Hunter D also came out in December of 1985, so that was a really good month for haunting, visually stunning movies. I really appreciated the play of light and shadow in the movie. You feel the moonlight and the shifting clouds overhead. Most, if not all, of the movie takes place at night or in semi-darkness. And this heaviness is amplified by the lack of dialogue and the long lingering shots. We are given the chance to really look at each scene as they linger long enough for your eye to wander and absorb everything in the frame, which is appreciated because there's often a lot going on, or rather, interesting things going on. This feels like a silly thing to say, but the contrast between movement and stillness felt really pronounced to me, as if the environment or the background were holding its breath or dead, making any movement or any life really stand out. And this no life feeling is emphasized by the lack of dialogue. I think in this entire movie there might be 10 minutes of dialogue. Every word counts for something, but of course we communicate in non-verbal ways too. For most of the movie we follow a little girl who has quite an expressive face and body. You can tell from her movements what is important to her and what is not, what she's feeling and what she isn't. She lives on her own, guarding an unusually large egg. She often carries the egg by tying it to her body under her dress, making her look pregnant, and because she's so little, that image is inherently wrong, disturbing, unnatural. At the start of the movie, we see an image of a bird-like creature inside an egg, so we can assume that this creature is what is inside this girl's egg. But is it possible for that egg to actually hatch one day? Probably not, because eggs do die, right? But this little girl is alone, and all she has is this egg. Keeping it safe, nurturing it, and loving it. I imagine for her this is a two-way relationship between herself and the egg. She loves it and it loves her in return, even though it does not speak or take any action at all. But we as humans, we personify things all the time. We give personality to objects that we care about and have conversations with them. We crave connection and reciprocity. We don't want to just love, we want to be loved as well. We feel fulfilled and we get something from taking care of something else, from being needed and valued. It gives our lives meaning, and that's what this giant egg does for this little girl. But now I'm going to rewind a little and go through the events of the movie. It begins with a pair of hands moving as if cupping something that's not there. One hand moves away and the other rotates and shifts color, darkening as if moving out of the light. It clenches and then that's it. So now we ask ourselves, whose hand is this? Hopefully it will make sense by the end of this movie, or by the end of this video. Next we see the bird creature in the egg while dark clouds float by overhead. We also hear a tolling bell. Next we see this boy. At first I thought he was a man, but I think he's more like a teenage boy or perhaps a young adult. I'm thinking 17, 18, 19. He stands on a checkered floor with a massive technological something behind him. I think it's a satellite. Maybe this is a platform to send some kind of message? A giant round aircraft descends from the sky. It looks like a half-lidded eye, and there are dozens and dozens of what looks like statues on its surface. They look very noble, like Greek statues in flowing robes and armor, including helmets and rings over their heads that look like halos. Their hands are clasped in front of them, and they have a kind of dome in their chest. It whistles as it descends, and interestingly, the figures on those outstretched parts are not in those noble outfits and are in differing positions. And we hear a little girl's voice say, "Who are you?"
誰?あなたは誰?
I'm not going to be so detailed going forward. I just think the beginning is important and that this takes place after the events of the movie, so we shall circle back and see if this theory makes sense. We then see a young girl waking up. She gets out of bed and we see that she was sleeping with a big egg. She looks out her window, and at a town a fair distance away, she has a very gentle expression on her face, perhaps longing even. We do not learn her name, and she remains nameless throughout the movie. I think of her as Angel, as in Angel's egg, but I shall refer to her as the girl. Securing her egg under her dress, she heads out through a grassy field to a darkly beautiful forest. Here we see that play of light and shadows I was mentioning before. She stops at a pond or a river to fill a large round bottle. She dips the bottle into the water to fill it and drinks from her giant round bottle before staring into its depths with a little smile. Moonlight twinkles over the water's surface, and the shadows of branches loom overhead, stretching toward her. We see a long shot of the girl sinking beneath the water, her hair flowing around her. Holding her egg, she is then fully submerged. But then, none of that happened. She is dry. So, a premonition, perhaps? Or perhaps that's a visual way of representing intrusive thoughts. When you stare into the water and imagine yourself sinking lower and lower, just because you can't help yourself. She makes her way into the city, and we see a lot of water and a whole system designed to keep it out of the city. She finds another huge round bottle and fills it with water. The streets of the town are deserted, and we see not one other soul. There are shots viewing the girl from the windows of the buildings. Usually this kind of shot implies someone is watching her, but I feel that this is emphasizing that no one is watching her. She is the one searching. This feels like an empty place, but I could be wrong on this one. The residents of the city could be hiding from her and her egg. She hears a sound and runs up to a road where we see these strange vehicles moving down the street in a long stream. She stares up at them as they pass. We don't see any drivers or hear any people, and then one stops and we see the boy from the beginning of the movie. He descends from one of the vehicles and it continues once he's on the street. He stares very intently at the girl. She must make for a striking image with her protruding belly. Or does he already know that she carries something under her dress? As the boy stares, the girl clutches the egg to her chest. His gaze noticeably drops to the egg. They stare at each other for quite a while before she decides to flee, running down an alley to hide. She seems torn between wanting to be near another person and wanting to keep her egg safe. But in the end, she chooses her egg and turns away from the boy. She scavenges for food, and this is another reason why I think this town is abandoned, because you'd think it would be picked clean. She comes across another round bottle and she's pleased, taking it to a fountain to wash it out and fill it with water. When the bottle is full, she stares through it, observing the world through water, as is her habit. A bell begins to toll, and she drops the bottle before turning away. And we see these crouching figures. They look like statues of fishermen holding long rods or harpoons. As the girl runs through the streets, we see these harpoons sticking out of the ground, and we see more of these fishermen in different positions and postures. I will tell you now, I am the most confused about the fishermen and what they are supposed to be, though I think I have an idea about what they mean. The girl finds a secluded place to rest, eating what looks like jam with her fingers and drinking from a big round bottle. She unties the egg, placing it down beside her, and wanders away, finding another water body to stare into. When she's done with her thinking, she returns to find the boy sitting on some steps. The girl seems both excited and afraid. He stands and reveals he has her egg, and then we have our first true lines of dialogue.
大切なものはお腹の中に入れておかなければなくしてしまうよ。その卵の中には何が入っているのかな？
そんなこと教えられないわ。だって私、あなたを知らないもの。
卵は割ってみなければその中に何が入っているのか。
So now, let's ask ourselves, is this sinister or not? Can she trust him to be around her egg, or is she right to bundle it up and run away? As she's running away, she turns to see him following her. She shouts a question, "Who are you?" But he does not respond. He continues to follow her, and she asks him not to, but he continues. She stays ahead of him but regularly glances back to see if he's still there, which he always is. As the journey continues, I think she begins to enjoy his presence, relaxing into it as she decides he isn't going to hurt her. Maybe enjoy is too strong a word, but she becomes comfortable around him, and I would say that she wants him to be there. And if he was going to hurt her, he would have done it by now. And so their stories officially entangle. They rest together and she offers him some water from her big round bottle, but he declines, which upsets her. Perhaps it feels like a rejection of her after her acceptance of him. They continue their journey, and as they're walking down a street, it begins to rain. She looks back at him and he lifts his cloak, offering to shelter her, but she rejects him. She stops and stares at their reflection in a shop window. How many times in her short life has she seen herself beside another person? As the rain falls harder, those fishermen from earlier run down the street ahead of them, harpoons at the ready. Turns out they were not statues. Maybe there is some kind of robot? I truly don't know with this one.
魚？
どこにもいないのに。追いかけたって、魚なんかどこにもいないのに。
And as the girl realizes how close she is to him, she begins to pull away and he puts his hand on her shoulder, letting her know it's okay to stay. More and more fishermen fill the streets and she stays under his cloak, seeking safety. Shadows of giant fish flow over buildings and streets, and the fishermen throw their harpoons, which become embedded in the streets and buildings because there are no fish. They are throwing their weapons and there is nothing there. Are these fish depicted as shadows to show that they only exist in the minds of the fishermen, or are those shadows truly there? The girl said nothing about shadows. She only said there are no fish anywhere. Are the fishermen hunting ghosts? The boy and girl rest at what I think is a concert hall, but could also be one of those giant megachurches. She walks down the aisle and we hear a choir. It's like a glimpse into the past. The girl stills and closes her eyes, almost like she can hear the music. She climbs up onto the stage and looks out the window. She spots the boy and waves. Her mouth moves like she's calling out to him, saying something to him, but we don't hear her voice. The boy is out on the street, staring back at her, except he's not staring at her. He's staring at the fish shadows. He stands amongst the busy fishermen, staring at the building in bewilderment. So, this must mean the shadows are actually there, right? Or do only some people see the shadows? Does the girl not see them? She looks as though she's reacting only to him and not the shadowfish, and she did not mention them earlier. The soundtrack turns loud and manic as the fishermen scramble over rooftops and up walls, chasing shadows. They throw the harpoons into windows and doors and streetlights, destroying the city, chasing something that is not there. The boy and girl leave, taking one last look at the chaos in the streets. The girl leads him back the way she came, but before arriving at her home,
お願い。私の卵に何にもしないって約束して。
and he does not answer. Despite this, she takes him home. They pass through a cabin that feels both man-made and not, like someone fused a cave with a giant skeleton. The boy spots a slab with a design he calls a tree, but to us it looks like some kind of circuitry. He feels he's seen it before, so long ago he can barely remember. He saw it under a sky where clouds made sounds as they moved.
真っ黒な地平線がそのまま盛り上がって生まれた大きな木。大地から生気を吸い上げて脈打つ枝を伸ばし何かを掴んでいた。卵の中の眠り続ける大きな鳥を。
And so she asks him where the bird is now.
今でもそこにいて夢を見続けているよ。
夢？鳥はどんな夢を見るの？
その卵の中に何がいるのかまだ教えてもらえないのかな。
And the girl seems more comforted than upset by his story, focusing on the dreaming bird part and not the sucking all the life from the ground part. So after his story, I am very much thinking that this is aliens because he describes clouds that made a sound as they moved, which sounds like ships to me. So what exactly happened to the world? A giant bird, he said. Could that be an angel? Perhaps? What happened to cause all of this? Where is everyone? And is one of those birds inside the egg? The camera pans out and we explore this place where the girl lives, and we see lines and lines of round bottles filled with water, hundreds of them lined up against the walls. Maybe even thousands of them. How long has she lived here on her own? And what in heaven and earth are these creatures in the stone? The boy asks the girl how long she's been here. How many bottles has she collected? She doesn't know, and he does not know where he came from either, or even where he is going. He tells her a story. It is the biblical story of God's flooding of the earth and how Noah saved his family and some animals in the ark. Except his story has a different ending. If you're not familiar, the whole story of Noah and the ark ends with them sending out a dove, and then the dove returns with an olive tree branch in its mouth, I think. And that is how they know that the water is going down, because otherwise, how did the bird get the branch? The boy's story is not quite so happily ever after. In his story, the bird never returned. They waited so long they forgot they sent a bird at all, forgot where they were going or where they came from, forgot how long it had been, forgot that there was a world under the water.
獣たちが石になるほど遠い昔の物語だよ。僕が見た鳥もいつどこでのことだったか思い出すこともできない遠い記憶でしかない。夢だったのかもしれないよ。君も僕もあの魚たちのようにとっくにいなくなってしまった人たちの記憶でしかなくて、本当は誰もいない世界に雨が降っているだけなのかもしれないんだ。鳥なんか初めっからいなかったのかもしれない。
So is this some kind of post-Great Flood world? Or has someone or something else flooded the world, making people remember Noah and the ark? What is this building, the one that they're in now? It's so large. Was it a temple? It looks like it was once beautiful. The girl gets an idea and tells the boy the bird exists, and she knows where it is, and so she leads him through the halls. Is that supposed to be some kind of angel? Or just a big bird, an alien, perhaps? And is that what is in her egg? Is she hatching another giant bird, angel hybrid creature? Is this aliens or divinity? The pair sit together around a fire while the girl clutches the egg on her lap, her cheek resting against it. The boy asks what she hears. Breathing, she responds. That's your chest, he says. I hear wings. It's dreaming of flight. That's the wind, he pushes back. She remains firm. She can sense the life in the egg, and it's almost time. The dreaming will end soon, and until then they'll stay here, where it's dry and safe and warm. She falls asleep, and he picks her up and puts her to bed. She asks again who he is, and he returns the question, who might you be? And neither answers the question. The city is flooding, and the fishermen are once again still. The rain pours down. The boy sits on the ground beside her as she sleeps. Time passes, and slowly the fire grows dim before going out entirely. The girl turns in her sleep, releasing the egg and leaving it behind her. The boy stands, stares at the girl, and takes the egg. He places it on the ground and raises his weapon before slamming it down. I find the decision to omit the sound of the egg breaking interesting. Are we trusted to imagine the sound for ourselves? Was it loud or soft? Did it squish? How much effort did it require? The city is almost completely flooded now, the water level high enough to cover streetlights and rooftops. The girl wakes and sees the boy is gone. She gets up and looks around for him. She takes a few steps before seeing what he has done. Her entire world has been destroyed, her most meaningful possession gone. No hope now in a world that is desolate and empty. And then anger takes her and she runs through this building, chasing after him. Down the winding steps and through the long halls. She streams out of the building, and this is when I noticed the shape of the building, the full building. And what it looks like is the image of the bird in the egg we saw right at the beginning of the movie. The girl sees the boy in the distance and runs after him, wiping tears from her eyes. And then she falls down a crevasse, and it's sudden but smooth somehow. It does not jolt or shake her, and almost feels like this was the path she was always supposed to take, like there has been no mistake. The crack in the ground is filled with water, and her hair flares around her as she hurtles toward it. Very reminiscent of the scene we saw earlier when she first filled her bottle with water. Except she doesn't have her egg with her as she sinks into the water. She presses her hands to her belly and her chest, reaching for the egg that is no longer there. And then several eggs rise to the surface as if her death spawned new eggs. And guys, I don't know what this means. Life from death, maybe? We then see a wreckage of a city, and I think this is our city. So perhaps this is a glimpse into the future, or perhaps a glimpse into what has happened to cities before. We see a building with a stained glass window like the one from the concert hall the girl was in. And we see quite a few of these egg trees, so perhaps the flood brings the eggs? And thinking back to the boy's story, this is what he was describing, right? A tree that stretched out from the ground, grasping an egg containing a sleeping bird. This is it, right? Sucking all the life from the ground. So, do these things come with the rain? Do they come after the rain? I don't know. The boy walks over ground covered in waving lines of feathers until he comes to water's edge. Wind blows and stirs the feather and they rise into the air. He stares over the water and watches the giant eye vessel rise from its surface into the air. We see those statues with their hands clasped in front of them, and we see the girl sitting on a kind of ornate seat. I don't quite want to call it a throne, but it is most certainly a seat of honor and reverence. She is depicted holding the egg on her lap. Is this ship an ark? The boy stares up at her, and I don't know how to describe his expression. Sadness? Longing? Regret? I'm not sure. The camera begins to pan out, and this is very slow. It takes 4 or 5 minutes till it's fully panned out. So as this is happening, I am searching for clues. I notice how the rocks appear to be in straight lines, as if in some kind of deliberate pattern. And then it hit me. This is an island. It is the only portion of land left. The whole world is covered in water. Or at least I think it's the whole world. And that is the end of the movie. So in my head, I think that after this happens, the boy goes to that place we saw at the beginning of the movie. And I think that is a satellite behind him, and he used it to call the ark because that is where the girl is. And that's why he remembered her voice asking him who he is, and that perhaps he wants to join the ark now. But I don't know. I don't know anything for sure. And of course, one of the things in the movie that was really apparent was the little girl's fascination with the round bottles. She fills them with water, then peers through them, looking at the world submerged in water. I think this ties to the world is completely flooded. It's like she's both looking into the future of the place where she currently is, where she physically is, and also getting an idea of what the rest of the world looks like because everything is covered in water. And now I want to try and answer the question, what is happening in Angel's Egg? What is it about? First, I do want to acknowledge that there could be no narrative that ties it all together. Like, the purpose could be that it can be interpreted in multiple ways, or that this is like a parable or a fairy tale and doesn't need to make hard sense. I would say that the whole world is flooded, and that the boy and the girl are some of the only people left alive. This slip of land is all that's left. I think the fishermen are some kind of robot or automaton or altered humans or cyborgs that were made for defense purposes, and now it's like androids dreaming of electric sheep kind of thing. Maybe they're triggered by the rain and they all are like, oh, it's time to fight or catch fish. I think there's no one in these vehicles too, the one that the boy was traveling on. I think he is wandering around looking to do something in some futile effort to prevent the end of the world. And when he has the opportunity to destroy one of these eggs, which could be connected to these big birds, he just has to do it. I think the girl's egg is dead the whole time and would never have hatched. It was probably empty or basically empty when it was cracked open, and so the girl lost all hope, not just because it was destroyed, but also because there wasn't something that could have been alive inside of it, and so she did not fight or struggle at all when she fell and drowned. But her celebrated position on the ship shows that her care of the egg was something to be admired, and that it was not in vain. She was not wrong for what she did. I do not think the boy should have smashed her egg and that he was acting out of fear. I go back and forth between thinking that the flooding is and is not an act of God, that it is perhaps an alien race that was inspired by the story of Noah and the ark, and that they made these bird creatures inspired by angels. But then maybe it is like an act of God, and when we look at the ship, which could be an ark, it kind of looks like those biblically accurate angel things, right? So maybe it is like an act of God. I do think that the flooding of the world was a slow process. Like maybe the girl has never known a world that was not flooding. I think maybe the girl is living in a facility that was built to worship these angel bird creatures, like a temple. And then humanity killed themselves through war. And also, just from the flooding and starvation. Perhaps the people who lived in this worship temple building are the statues that we see on the Giant Eye ship, and that's why they got these places of honor on the ship and why they have these kind of honorable positions. And also I think that with regards to the fishermen, I think them fighting shadows is about people not letting go when it's time to move on. Fighting enemies that don't exist, being so lost and hopeless and metaphorically blind that all you can do is hold on to your past struggles to give your life meaning. And I think the girl could not see the fish because the egg gives her life meaning, and perhaps she's young enough to be innocent and not jaded. The boy sees the shadows because he is hopeless, lost, and afraid. Maybe filled with the need for vengeance, perhaps? He carries a weapon and I'm sure he's had to use it. He definitely sounds jaded in his stories. And these are my theories. As you can see, they are perhaps not the best, and maybe they don't even all work together, but this is what I think after watching this movie. So director Mamoru Oshii is very tight-lipped about Angel's Egg and has not given a definitive explanation because he intended for it to be an open-ended visual allegory. So I suppose that means I am technically not wrong. In the past he has said that the egg represents dreams and hopes, which I definitely see. It is blind faith, trusting in something that may or may not exist. When the boy breaks the egg, the dream is shattered, showing the girl that what she believed did not exist. I can see this too, as I believe the egg did not contain a viable embryo, I guess would be the technical term. But hope is not lost entirely because as the girl's life ends when she drowns, her final breaths turn into eggs, representing the rebirth or the continuous cycle of life and hope and everything. So it was meant to be hopeful. So that is it, guys. I didn't research too much further because now that I've heard the director's intentions, I kind of just want to stick with what it meant to me in particular. But I am interested in your thoughts. If you have any, have you watched Angel's Egg, or do you have any theories, or what did the different things mean to you? I am very intrigued. I read that Angel's Egg has 400 shots, which is quite unusual for an anime of this length, would normally have 3 times as many, and you really feel it, and that is not a complaint. I enjoyed how still this movie feels. And if you hated everything that I said in this video, please don't be mean to me. I would really like to hear your thoughts though. I hope that you enjoyed this video. This is going to be it for me. I hope that you have a good day and a good week. I'm Kayla, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!